Welcome to Studio X27. I am your host, X. And today I want to talk about something that kind of affects millions and millions of people around the world, and that's depression. Depression is one of those things where it doesn't just affect you for a day or two. This is like a serious condition that can make you feel empty, hopeless, or even numb. And some people look like they're fine from the outside, but really they're holding on to a lot of pain, a lot of anguish, a lot of hurt. And truth be told, right now, more than 1 out of 8 Americans deal with depression on a day to day basis. Um, Depression globally is affecting hundreds of millions of people around the world. And yet, people don't really like to talk about it. There's like this stigma behind depression where some people make you feel like you're crazy. Some people make you feel like you're the problem or it's all on you to deal with alone. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to deal with depression by yourself. Always remember that depression is not a weakness and it's not a character flaw. It's a health condition that can be treated. Therapy, medication, support from your loved ones, lifestyle changes help most people for the better, often much better. I encourage people who are going through depression to seek help, to seek counsel with loved ones, medical professionals, anyone you can really just talk to, because sometimes when you're going through depression, all of that's really just all in your head. And it's so hard to get out of it, especially when you're alone or you don't have like loved ones to talk to about it. Sometimes being in a room by yourself in a quiet space can be one of the loudest moments in your life, because you get home, you just come home from work or whatever, and you're just like, I can't get it out. I can't get it out of my head. I can't get it out of my head. And you're just like, you want the pain to go away. You want the issues to go away, but they don't. And it's like in the back of your brain, you just got all this stuff, just weighing down on you, whether it's your marriage or your finances or kids or, just the everyday stresses of life. And sometimes people tend to want to do things that they feel like it's the only way. I wanted to touch up on something real quick. This message about depression hits really hard. I don't know if anybody knew about the heartbreaking news in the NFL with wide receiver Rondale Moore. He was a standout at Purdue. He was 25 years old. He got drafted in, I want to say, the second round by the Arizona Cardinals in 2021. And he most recently was playing for the Minnesota Vikings, wide receiver. Now, it was reported that he was found dead in his hometown of New Albany, Indiana. Authorities report it was a suspected self-inflicted gunshot wound. An investigation autopsy is ongoing right now. Rondale was a talented, resilient, and beloved teammate. And he was loved by his coaches as well. Yet, even someone at the peak of their athletic success can battle invisible pain. Injuries, setbacks, pressure, that deepens into depression and despair. His loss reminds us success does not protect against mental health struggles. A lot of people think that, I make all this money and money's going to buy happiness. And, if I have a big house and fast cars and all the women in the world and all the money in the world, and it don't. It can mask some things in the short term. But can you imagine not having a wife and kids to come home to, not to, you got this big old mansion and no one to share it with. There's a lot of different reasons why people feel like suicide is the best way for them. I really can't speak on what would make someone go to that length, but in their mind, they think that that's the right thing to do. In their mind, they think that it's the only way. you really can't speak on unless you're in that person's shoes. Unless you walk the mile in that person's shoes and you really understand what they're going through, you can't say, oh, I would have did this, I would have did it this way, I would have did it that way. You don't know unless you're in that situation. A lot of people want to tell you what they would do, but like I say, if you're not in that situation, you can't really speak on what that young man was going through. I pray for his family, his loved ones. My condolences to everyone. But also, I'm just here to say, please check on your friends. Normalize asking, how are you really? And are you hurting? Know that speaking on it is okay. It doesn't make you weak to speak on things that you're depressed, because like I said earlier in the video, a lot of people come across as, oh man, if I'm depressed, so that makes me weak, so I gotta like be strong in front of my boys. And it's like, no, humble yourself and let's talk about it, because you don't realize, man, the more you talk about your issues, the more you get it out, that's the first step in feeling a little bit of relief. That's the first step of feeling like, okay, I'm on the right path to suppressing this feeling that I've been holding on, this weight that's been holding on to me mentally, physically, that's been draining me. So always reach out to your homeboy. There's nothing wrong with having a good brotherhood. I ain't gonna lie, I feel like I got one of the best brotherhoods to ever exist, because I know I can call up my brother, my cousin, my uncles, my homies, and be like, yo, this is what I'm going through. And, finances ain't hitting right. Or, I want to talk about, relationships, or I want to talk about just, pain that I've been dealing with, traumas I've been dealing with. And you should have someone in your life that you can, talk about those things with. Get it out. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. Just getting that stuff out. It's not a weakness. It's actually a strength to do, to humble yourself. This depression awareness message is simple. If you or someone is in a crisis, there are numbers and, people you can reach out to. Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is 24/7. There are, resources that you can, reach out to, medical resources. Talk to your PCP, your doctor. Talk to an elder, a friend. And depression comes in all ages, man. Whether you're young, you're old, you're in your mid 30s and 40s. Everybody deals with depression at one point. I think the biggest thing is just identifying what makes you depressed and not ignoring it. Please do not ignore your depression. If you're going through something, handle it head on. And if you don't know how to handle it, like I said again, reach out to someone. Rest in peace to Rondale Moore, and God bless his family. My condolences to all these people. But like I said again, success is not by happiness. A lot of people feel like, oh, he got millions of dollars and he's rich, and it doesn't matter. Whatever that young man was going through, he was going through it. And he felt like what he did was the best way to get out of it. I know a lot of people don't agree with it, but all we can do at this point is just, like I said, just send your condolences and pray for that young man. It's a very, very sad story, whatever he was going through. I just give it to God at this point, So like I said, this was the first episode back with Studio X27. It feels good. I hopefully want to do some of these short videos, about 10-minute videos or something like that. Just kind of get my feet wet and get back into this thing or whatever. I want to spread positivity. I want to spread mental health awareness. This is something that a lot of us are going through. So like I said, feels good to be back. Studio X27. It's your boy Xavier. 1.